everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Rubber Stamp Tapestry, and we are going to make some fall note cards using 3 sets of their peg stamps. So that's something else that is great about these peg stamps. They interchange very well. You don't have to only stick with one set. So this will give you more use and stretch these stamps out. So I chose Autumn Glory, Fall Leaves and Acorns, and Summer of Garden of Summer Mums. So they're the 3 sets that I'm going to use. So before we start making our cards, I've grabbed my craft mat. This is from Tonic. It's a nice size. It's white. And I'm going to set that down, and I've grabbed 4 of my distress inks. I grabbed Aged Mahogany, Fossilized Amber, Dusty Concord, and Forrest Moss. I'm in love with this color combination for the fall. Christina used it once, and I was hooked. So I'm just going to put these colors down onto this mat. Yes, they're all going to go down all at once. And we're going to do some ink smushing. I want to create some panels. So I've got my 4 pots there, or areas smushed, and then I'm just coming in all over the place. I'm going to add a lot of water. I want to make sure that this does look like a watercolor, but I'm going to go straight down and come up. And you can see I was intentional where I'm putting this. So I'm actually picking up those colors. The lighter, as I keep ink smushing, the better my panels are going to be for me. Now, you don't want to shift it because you're going to get mud. Because you've got red, yellow, green, and purple. The yellow and the red, great. The red and the purple, great. The green and the yellow, great. Green and the purple, not so much. So you will start to get that grayish brown. It's a beautiful color, but you don't want too much of that. So you can see how I'm getting it. But as I continue to smush and pick up all of this ink, the panels do get better, and I do want them soft. Now that doesn't mean that the ones that I did first are not saved and used later. Yes, well, not in this video, but they may come apart or appear somewhere else. When I do ink smushing, I do a lot of panels. I just love it. I could do it all day. So these are the panels that I chose. You can see how much lighter they are from the original ones. I am going to use one of my steel rule dies by Tim Holtz in Sizzix called Tattered Leaves. What's great is all 3 watercolor panels, and the watercolor paper that I used was by Arteza, and I will have that linked down below. What I love about those steel rule dies is all 3 of those pieces of thick watercolor paper can be cut at once. One passing, it's awesome. So I'm just going to use some repositional tape and put these leaves down onto my scratch pad. Now, this is just a pad that I get from the dollar store. I think it's in the kids section. I think it's their construction or drawing sketchbook. It's perfect for stuff like this. It's the perfect size. And then I just do a lot of my blending and all of my stamping, my overstamping on these. So I am now just going to town. I dug into my mini cube sets, and I just grabbed some colors. I think a lot of them are the Hero Arts. I grabbed Amethyst. I grabbed Mulled Wine, Tiger's Eye, just to name a few of the colors. I will have them linked down below. So I'm just stamping over these leaves. I know it's tough to cover over the ink smushing because that can be your focal point itself. But I want to use it as a background today. I want to push it to the back. I want my stamping to come to the front. So by me stamping on these leaves, it's like you're creating a pattern paper, but you're actually creating your focal point. So I'm just coming through with all of these different colors, a lot of fall colors, and just stamping. Sometimes I'm using the second generation stamp where I put the peg stamp onto the ink pad, stamp on a scratch paper, and then that second time I stamp, I'm not going back to the ink pad. I'm going directly to my image. That's the second generation. When we just go from the ink to the paper, that's called the first generation stamp. So you can sometimes, depending on your color, get a first, second, third, fourth, maybe not a fifth, unless you want to really like. But we can do that and get multiple shades out of one color. Well, again, that'll help you stretch your inks as well. So I am just continuing to fill these up. It looks like they're getting lost. It looks like they're not being seen there because I've got everything going around them. It's okay, because you do know the vintage photos coming in, right? I'm just saying. So this is actually espresso. Yes. So I put that onto an acrylic block, added some water, and I'm going to, of course, splatter across these leaves. Now, I also do splatter with clear water as well. And then when I pick this up, I get the hint of the different shades and the different dots going through there. I'll be picking up each of these leaves, removing the removable adhesive, and then we will move on to our next step. Now, we do know, again, the vintage photo will be coming in. And that is what's going to help make these leaves stand out, to help frame them in another way. Because again, these are going to be the focal points. These are just autumn or fall themed note cards. It makes me smile when I hear people just send a note to somebody. It's not an email. It's not a text. They actually put something through the mail. I think that it's an art. It's just being lost. So you can see I'm coming around the edge of these leaves with the vintage photo, and that's going to help frame them. I've also used the same color as my card bases. I've cut the same leaves out using that steel rule die. Again, I'm able to put 3 of those pieces of cardstock right in at once and get these. I want to have 2 of the solid shades behind my stamped leaf. I will be using the vintage photo to go around those solid leaves as well. Again, creates the shading, creates the depth, helps to separate each of those images to give that depth. And to give that separation. So we will be making 3, as you saw in the beginning, and they're going to be a different size. The card bases are actually going to be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, which means you would cut your paper 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, and you would score it along the 8 1/2 edge at 4 1/4. The panels that I'm cutting here are from ivory, and they are cut 4 by 4. And then this is what these leaves are going to sit on. Now you could keep them all together, put a nice piece of twine around the leaf stems. I mean, there's a lot that you could do. It could be twine, it could be ribbon. You could put a cluster of beads, a cluster of sequins. I just wanted to set the clusters onto the card in different arrangements. Because again, you could make this into a set. So once they're set, I'm going to glue the solid ones in place, and then I'm going to use my foam squares to raise up the stamped leaves. The liquid adhesive that I'm using is my art glitter glue. So I'm just looking, do I want this to come out from the bottom? Do I want it to sit on the top? It all depends. Because again, each one can be different. Here is where I'm coming in with my double-sided foam squares. And again, I'm just going to cut some down so that I can get to each of the corners. And I'm just going to tuck that right up underneath the red leaf. And then I will continue to do that to the other two. Again, different positions. When you make a set of either note cards or cards, you can make each of them the same. But it's okay if you make something different on each of them as well. That would be a set. Either way. But you can just take something a little bit differently to give it those difference, give them choices. We all love choices, right? We can't just really look at one thing. We must have choices. So I'm going to glue down some of the edges, and I'm going to trim across some of my cards, just in case anything is overhanging. And yes, it's like a nightmare. The vintage photos coming back in, and I'm going to go around the ivory design panel, and then we are going to start to put our cards together. So my card bases are the same as my leaves. So I have a craft, I have a deep maroon, and I have an olive green. That brown panel is cut 4 1/8 by 4 1/8, and that is in inches. And as always, if you go to my blog, I'll have all of these sizes and measurements printed out on or listed out on my blog as well if you wanted to recreate these. I'm going to adhere these down to the brown panel, and then I will adhere these panels onto my card bases. So I'm only getting a very small mat going around. I really wanted those to be my focal point. So by keeping, you can see I kept the same colors. It's almost like a theme that's going through. Now you could have just used a white card base as well. You didn't have to use those colors. But by sticking with the same colors throughout these 3 pieces, that will also help to make it a set. Now, I'm not saying if you use all of these different colors, if you use multiple colors, you're not creating a set. You are, but usually those colors are matching. So it's something to think about when it comes to creating, your sets. You're creating that theme when it comes to that. When it comes to that, like if you make a set of birthday cards, they're all birthday cards. So there's something that is similar that goes through each of your designs. So I'm using my liquid adhesive, and I've grabbed some sequins. These are by Nuvo, and these are the Vanilla Delight sequins. These are very unique. It's almost like they're vellum when it comes to these sequins, which I think is a very different effect. So I will be adding, of course, an odd number, which will be 5, to each of these card designs. Some are going to be on the leaves, and then some are going to be on the background. And it just adds a little bit. Didn't want to add so much glitter, but did want to add some type of an embellishment to them. So I do hope you enjoyed today's project using the rubber stamp tapestry peg stamps. Again, 3 sets. They are great to intertwine with. All the products that I used will be listed down below in the video description. If you have any questions, please leave those down below as well, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. As soon as I can. Can't speak today. Thank you so much for stopping by and taking the time to watch the video. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell, because you just never know what's going to come out next. I hope you're all having a great day. Enjoy, but remember what's most important. Always be creative.